Hey everybody, welcome to your Dawn of Autonomy podcast. I'm Dawn Zolda, your host, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting and publisher at Autonomy Global. We are at the end of an incredible month that we dedicated to the theme of tech leaders. It's been sponsored by True Weather Solutions, who we greatly appreciate. And today we have this really cool company coming to us. Met some of these folks at Soft Week, caught my eye and introducing them to the world right now. So this is Tycho.AI and Dr. Sertac, I want to make sure I say this, Karaman, with us today. He is the founder of this company and also the director of MIT's Laboratory for Information and Decision Systems, or LIDS. And we're going to talk all about the autonomy stack they've created and this really, really cool drone. So, Sertac, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So I got to tell everybody out there, when I was at Soft Week running around, I saw this really cool drone in this booth, and I'm like, wait a minute, who are these people and what are they doing? And so I started talking to them, and here we are. So Sertac, before we get into your company and everything you're doing in it, tell us a little bit about your personal background first.
Yeah. I'm a roboticist by training. I am, technical. I got a master's from mechanical engineering from MIT. I got a PhD in computer science from MIT. I'm also a MIT aerospace professor. You said it already. I'm the director of MIT's Laboratory for Information and Decision Systems. It's like a department. It's like almost 60 professors, like about 500 researchers now, 500 researchers. I'm also the founder of this company. It's not my first company. I've done others. Probably the best known is Optimus Ride. It was an autonomous shuttle provider. I started that in 2015, and it got acquired by Magna. It grew to about like a little over 200 people, maybe 250 people. It got acquired by Magna Electronics, so it still kind of operates as a bit of a subsidiary, as a part of Magna Electronics. And I've done a lot of defense research throughout, I don't know since when, maybe throughout graduate school days, going a little bit back, and built up a background, technical background in autonomous vehicles. And kind of, I would say that learned the business of it along the way through multiple startups and working with a few other big companies as well.
That is so cool. So you may not know this, Sertosh, but I was the head lawyer at the United States Air Force Academy. So I really appreciate kind of academia, the research and development that happens there, the technology transfer agreements that happen behind the scenes. And so it makes it, it's so interesting, your background, because my son's a mechanical engineer. I was just thinking to myself, the really good nexus there is like computer
Yeah,
science.
yeah, we can
And,
talk about it
and
all day
because
long if you want.
that's kind of the name of the game today, right? With these autonomous vehicles. And so you pick the right disciplines. You're obviously working very deeply in this space with a lot of other experts and really cool entrepreneurial background as well. So tell us about Tycho AI. Like, what was the inspiration to create this company, and what is it all about?
Yeah, Tycho AI is one of those things. It's like 2 decades in the making for me and a number of others in the company. And we have been really excited about autonomy for a long time. I mean, before it like things even worked, like I'm actually looking back at those days. It a little bit surprises me. Like we were so optimistic that this thing is going to work. Like nothing worked back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
we were trying to do like, so I'm also have the background, like I actually been in the DARPA Urban Challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but
The DARPA Witch Challenge?
Urban Challenge.
Oh, the Urban Challenge. Okay, I know DARPA has so many different challenges.
DARPA has so many different things, but it was like one of those things that actually kind of kick-started, I'd say, the self-driving car industry. So
Okay,
DARPA
okay.
put up like these challenges. There's a few others in the past, but 2007 they said, okay, like build that take it. You need to take a street legal car and you need to make it fully autonomous, and it needs to drive on like a road network, built and controlled by DARPA in 2007. Like,
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't sound that far away. Like from 20, almost, we're almost 2027, 2026.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound that far away, but I mean, I don't know, there was no iPhone, no Siri, no nothing. We thought that like we just could make this autonomous. We were so optimistic back in the day. It's kind of
Right.
crazy. I mean, all of us, big leaders in the field, they're like, okay, 2016, all cars will be autonomous type of thing. But what I'd say is that I think Tycho was a little bit, we have taught for a long time, how can we build high performance autonomy? One of
Hmm.
the things that we taught for a long time is a lot of the autonomous systems are built to replace drivers, replace pilots, and it's just kind of on the script where you have some vehicle, there's a driver or a pilot or something like that. How can we do the same?
Right.
But then in a lot of applications, especially around defense, I mean, that's a fallacy. It's not a very good thing to begin with. I mean, you put autonomy on a vehicle, it's a completely different beast.
Mm.
And we started trying to showcase this thing to, you know, kind of folks in the defense ecosystem, how we can make what I called at the time like super autonomous vehicles. So these would be vehicles that would be far better than humans. It's a thing now, like everybody does it now, but back in 2010, 12, that was not a thing.
Right.
And we wanted to do this with cars, with drones, with anything you want. Like with cars, actually, you can save people out of accidents and stuff like that. There's some
Oh, yeah.
application into, but I think drones became very clear very quickly because people were doing drone racing. And
Yeah.
so back 2015, we thought, hey, can we do the same thing autonomously? And I think, a good chunk of the things I did at MIT is known for, like, the first group to actually kind of showcase, okay, you can set up an environment and you can like be faster than a drone pilot. In certain environments, we were doing these kind of fast drone racing through the gates with backflips. And I'll tell you something, like I would bring a lot of like defense leaders,
Yeah.
including military leaders, and I would have to explain to them what an FPV drone is.
Yeah. Well,
Like the,
not
the drone is
back then, I'm
flying.
sure. Yeah, like you're
Yeah,
talking
back then. So I'd say,
2015.
okay, drone is flying. Like there's a pilot who puts goggles and he can steer it. I mean, now they come in and like they know the FPV drone.
Oh,
Like they know
absolutely.
exactly what it
Yeah.
is.
The world has changed.
So then I think what happened is that, you know, um, I've been very entrepreneurial, been meaning to like transition technology all the time, but I don't think there were a lot of people who were interested in working on defense. Like I'll be honest. Like so, I think back 2020 or 2015. I had a lot of good talent out of MIT, but they wanted to do, I don't know, transportation or something like that. When I
Sure.
told
Yeah.
defense, they weren't that interested. But 2022, I think, changed everything. Like all of a
Why
sudden,
that year? Why do you think that year?
it's just, I mean, Russia walked into Ukraine. I
Yeah.
think that's what happened. And it just changed people's imagination. I think people want to work on a hard problem, and
Yeah.
people want to make an impact. And,
And frankly, it was like a righteous cause, right? It's like,
well, it's,
I'm hearing what you're saying because I'd been in the military for 25 years. And
yeah.
I saw the same aversion of talent to working with defense because it's like, well, you just break things and kill people, and we want to do something more noble, But when you have a situation where, like, David is attacked, like Goliath is attacking David, if you will, it's just like, hey, let's support that underdog because this is a righteous thing to
I
do.
mean,
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think it's a big part of it. And I think, how the Ukrainian leaders or, the Ukrainian farmer, stood up to that. I think that people inspired.
yeah,
And I think the second thing ended up being is people just kind of realized, hey, we have pretty cool technology. Like we actually like, they can't walk over this country. Like we can make this work. And I think that was a part of it. And another part of it is that like these are hard problems. Like
yeah,
they're not easy. And
right,
you make a drone fly fully autonomously, whatever, for counter UAV, for example, like it's hard. It's not
yeah,
an easy task. So I think that also coalesced people. So by 2022, like I realized I could find MIT people, I mean people in my research group who
yeah,
would raise their hands up and say, I'll start a defense company. I'll
yeah,
do it. And I
yeah,
think it was a big change. Like for a decade and a half, me working with the Defense Department, I could never get people
yeah,
convinced or excited. I'd say we kind of started working on things in late 2022, and we actually licensed some intellectual property that we have from MIT. That took us some time. But sort of what I would say is that even the investors were not convinced. I would go to investors, in 2022, and they're like, I don't know, you're gonna sell to the government, and I don't get that.
Yeah.
I think that's a new thing that investors are actually interested in, like defense businesses.
Well, I
Also,
think you're right. I think there's been a sea change from 2022 to now 2026 as we watch not only the Ukraine-Russia conflict, then other ones around the world, right?
yeah,
Particularly in the Middle East, some of which we've been involved in. Um, and then of course the interest in, and I'm sorry, Sertac, I have to call it the Department of Defense because Department of War is just not like what I can get my brain around. But
it's okay.
the money started to drop, right? Like, hey,
Yeah,
we're interested in autonomy now. Like, we care about not just like the big, reapers and predators. We care about drones, right? Because
yeah,
when I was working on basically drone policy back in let's say 2012, 2014 timeframe, the special ops community was just starting to get their brains around smaller drones and using them
yeah,
and not even necessarily FPV, you know. But now it's just like and not only that, Sertaj, not just the investors. Every commercial company I would say is like, hey, we're dual use. Hey, we're NDAA compliant because they see dollar signs like, hey, there's money falling over here. This is
yeah.
where we can make the money because sadly, and I think you've been watching this probably on the civil side, the regulations haven't really kept up with the technology in terms of, I'm an energy company and I want to do long line linear infrastructure inspections, with an autonomous drone, getting those approvals from the FAA, FCC, whoever you need them from, it's getting hard, right? It's not getting easier. There's waivers. It's a nut roll. Everybody's waiting for Part 108. So yeah,
Yeah.
this the story you're telling is one I think that is very familiar. So Tycho.AI in particular, as you started rallying the troops, if you will, from MIT to say, hey, let's work on this thing. What exact thing were you working on? It sounds like you're working on some kind of an autonomy stack that leveraged AI.
Yeah, that's right. I think, what I say we work on is that we work on agile autonomy. Like that's what we do.
Okay.
And so that would mean it's a bit of an extension of this, super autonomous vehicles that I kind of told you about.
Yep.
But this is the kind of autonomy that would allow vehicles to, detect and avoid obstacles at high speed,
Yeah.
target other drones at high speed, be able to maneuver rapidly, quickly. And so imagine drones that are high performance. So we realized pretty quickly that there's a big gap in more like lower altitude, fast, high speed autonomy. Like think of Army aviation.
Yep.
And we still don't do that. I think our kind of thinking of drones is, 1,000 feet in the sky, and it's good now, but tomorrow there'll be big targets. And
Yeah,
so being
or to
able
your
to,
point, we have pilots that have to, whether FPV or otherwise, right, control those, whether one to one, or of course now there's companies looking one to many.
yeah.
But having like that pilot actually flying the thing or things.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the way I see it. I think, for a long time, drone development has been, I got a chance to start very early on, right? Like I've seen a lot of new technologies make an impact and push us forward. But it has long been about we have the big aircraft that has a pilot in it. How do I take the pilot, do the same thing, and how do I miniaturize it afterwards? And so
Yeah,
that's the path that we're taking. So now I think the new path is a little bit like we build intelligence in a box that's as small as possible, and then
yep,
we build a vehicle around it. I mean,
yeah,
it's a fundamentally different way of thinking about autonomy. That intelligence in a box can be very agile. It's not tied to, frankly, biological limitations of humans on the aircraft. I think there's going to be humans on an aircraft for a long time, so don't get me wrong.
yeah, yeah.
But I think you can build vehicles that just have fill complementary roles. And they
Yeah.
don't need to be miniaturized versions of piloted aircraft. I think they can be kind of some complete redesign. And so
Yeah.
what we do at Tycho.AI is to build that stack. What we have is three core competencies. Number one is we're extremely strong in AI and autonomy. I mean, we're like the defense AI and autonomy lab.
Okay.
We take the top of the line AI, specifically, think like computer vision like technologies, kind of applied to autonomy, and put that into this small intelligence in a box. Secondly, we have a core competency in like chip design.
Okay.
So I've done that throughout my research. We have people who have single-handedly taped out chips. And we'll eventually create more and more of our own chips. Right now, we're using that expertise to like really feed maximal amount of data into like a GPU. But over
Hmm.
time, we'll have co-processors and things like that. And number three core competency we have is air vehicle design. So, you've seen the air vehicle that we have. Um, it is very capable. Like this thing can take pretty much like 90-degree turns at 200 miles an hour. And by the way, it can be just like injection molded. I mean, we 3D print the thing.
Wow.
Um, and it doesn't have like carbon fibers and this and that on it. And it carries a pretty sophisticated compute system. So my belief is that the more we integrate these three core competencies, the more high performance systems we're going to develop.
Yeah,
And so I
absolutely.
think
And I
that's
think
the
you're
path that we're on.
okay. So three core competencies. You already have a drone. I don't know if our producer in the background can pop up that picture and now, do you call it the Haley, Halley?
Yeah, that's right.
There
It
she
it
is.
it's yeah, that's right. It's like if you see it from the front, it looks like the letter H. It's kind of like it looks like a quadcopter because it has four propellers, but then it kind of flies like 90 degrees. And so then it has like a horizontal wing to do that. And it also has vertical wings. And vertical wings allows it to turn pretty quickly. Like for example, I see a lot of people build like frankly like a flying brick,
Mm.
like four propellers, looks like a rocket. The problem is that four propellers allow you to turn that thing, like turn its orientation pretty quickly, but you'll turn its orientation and it'll be like a boat. It's going to be like still sliding in the air. It
Ah,
it changed its orientation, but it hasn't gone to the right like direction. So this thing uses the vertical wings. The moment you turn it, it's looking at another place. And so these things are really essential. Like if you want to avoid obstacles, you want to go intercept another vehicle, you want to target something on the ground that's like moving. So that's kind of like the air vehicle component.
yeah.
That this vehicle is pretty well packed at this point. Like we have our own custom sort of circuit boards that pack the GPU as tightly as possible. We have our own custom autopilot, so we don't use your typical Arduino pilot open source set of things. Some of them are published in our MIT research, frankly, but we have some nonlinear control systems that learn to turn this thing quite rapidly. And then on top of that, we have an air vehicle design that's just, genuinely is a lot more agile than what we've seen out there and can do the same speeds and has operational range. So sometimes I'll see people like, here's a record, goes like 400 miles an hour. I'm like, okay, it goes for 2 minutes. Like, what do I do with that? Like, you're Air Force, like,
Yep.
special operations. Like, so, okay, so it runs for 2 minutes and then what? So this
Yeah.
thing goes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So it has operational range and endurance while doing those kinds of things. And so, we kind of worry about these types of things. And a part of our business is that drone, and a part of our business is that we also kind of the autopilot-like computer inside it is another thing that we're commercializing. So we're not public with anything yet, but it's coming soon. Like we have some partnerships, big partnerships to be announced that autopilot will appear in like aircraft that people quickly recognize. So I'm
Okay.
excited for that, but not yet.
Well, very cool. So we'll get back to the AI and some of the certifications you recently received on this particular drone, but I want to talk about the demos that you participated in. So we actually had Grand Sky on the show about 2 months ago with the head Army Lieutenant Colonel from the Raptor program and T-Rex. He talked about T-Rex, and you
Yeah.
guys have been involved in T-Rex. So Tell us a little bit about kind of the validations you've been doing through T-Rex and some other demos and other programs with the DoD.
Yeah, so we're working with we're working with the department generally speaking, and there's a few others. Of course, people who are in the industry will know that you have a new capability, you go get evaluated. It's an independent evaluation that the department can run for you, and so T-Rex is one of those events. It's pretty well known. So that was the first time back, I think, in April, kind of May timeframe, that we took this heli to a T-Rex event. We've actually showcased a few things. We've showcased we can do um, kind of like uh, high altitude, climb up to like thousands of feet. We've also showcased that we can do like a takedown of like an intercept of another aircraft. Like, we flew against foam targets that they had over there. We also kind of showcased some capability around, these aircraft are pretty difficult to fly if you don't have good control systems on it.
Right.
And so let me back up a little bit. This is important about what we showcased. And so these aircraft, like you buy a DJI drone, it's pretty easy to fly. You just kind of put it out there and it's just stable. You let go of the sticks, it doesn't, come down. It has something called positional control. And so the aircraft controls its own position. How does it do that? Is that there's like a little camera, we call it an optical flow sensor, it looks down and understands it's moving around and it just kind of tries to stabilize that motion. It has some sort of altitude measurement looking at the ground. It could be ultrasonic, could be like a laser pointer pointing down to measure distance. And it kind of stays there. And if you're kind of outside and you're at a high altitude, it uses GPS to do that. So then it combines all of these things, GPS and simple sensors with low speeds. It's pretty easy to fly. You can do the same thing with the kind of drone that we have if you have GPS. You can add positional control. So, you're basically kind of controlling the orientation of the aircraft, roughly speaking, and the speed. It's easy to fly. You don't have GPS, it's difficult now,
Well, and
especially for
that's the
something like
reality, right? That's the
that's
reality
the
of
reality right now. So how do you do that? So we basically kind of showcase the system where you can do positional control using the cameras. And I know a lot of people talk about GPS denied nav, but usually people look at, okay, what am I seeing at 1,000 feet altitude from the drone's camera? And let me download a model from Hugging Face to compare that to a satellite image. But
Mhm.
this thing is a bit different. Like you can be at low altitude, you can be at high altitude. You don't do just image comparison, but you somehow need to know very high rate your position and orientation so that the pilot can easily command that. Of course, if you have a pilot who has, hundreds of hours of training, I mean, we have pilots who are kind of like drone racing champions. They don't need that kind of thing. They can turn it around. But now you're thinking about, okay, like you have a 20, 25-year-old who's going to do like 30-minute training. And
Yeah.
by the way, is operating like a, 200 mile an hour strike drone with a warhead on it.
Yeah.
So how do you get there? So we were able to demonstrate that at T-Rex as well. One other cool thing that we have that we haven't quite announced it, but so I'm gonna keep it kind of brief right now, is that we were able to get camera images out of this thing somehow using AI with like a very little bandwidth of communication that we have. So you can have it pretty far and still see what it's doing from its front camera image. We're going to announce those a little bit more later, which I think at T-Rex, people couldn't believe it. So they were trying to measure our bandwidth, be like, how could this image come through
Yeah.
type of thing. So that's the last thing that we've demonstrated at the previous T-Rex.
Wow, that is amazing. So you also achieved a recent certification, which is really critical. It's CMMC, right? Which
Yeah.
is the cyber certification that federal government requires now, certainly the DoD. Tell us a little bit about that milestone and why it's so important.
Yeah, we can talk more about it. There's a lot of control. Like, a lot of people say different sets of things, whether this is required or not. But what my belief is that I think, there's a lot of companies that are falling out right now and they're building drone technologies. We can discuss this more, but I think I'm not sure we really realize the weight of the technology. I'm a little worried that, something bad will happen and that's going to be like the moment that we now realize or something like that. And we build, frankly, pretty sophisticated technology. At the hands of adversaries, it will be pretty devastating.
Yeah.
It looks like we're a small team, but I usually tell people like we have pretty great power density. We have a lot of talent, um, you know, um, and it's so we need to protect it really well.
Yeah.
And so part of it, tends to be like the cybersecurity related items. And there's actually government regulations around like this. You mentioned CMMC. Level one is somewhat easy to get. It's a little bit self-reported. Level two is like a full audit of the company that it is actually secure. And so we went through that. We were one of the first thousand something kind of in the country to kind of walk past that type of certification, which I think is exciting to me because I know the weight of the stuff that we're building, and I think I want to make sure that we're careful and safe like ourselves with it, as we build this for our country, basically.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I've been watching this industry for a long time, both sides of the fence, if you will. And, it almost seemed like cybersecurity was really an afterthought.
Yeah,
Because
it
you
is. Yeah,
don't need to be working with the DoD to build a drone that can be used for nefarious purposes.
yeah,
And your company getting hacked and like that technology getting stolen or used. I mean, we just recently had an incident in New Jersey where like six giant agriculture drones were taken from a warehouse. Now, there was a little bit of a splash around that, and it was, just kind of downplayed. Oh, we found him over here. It's like, wait, what? Like, that seemed
yeah,
kind of like a big deal, like, spraying drones, like disappearing from a warehouse, big ones. um, but
yeah,
it's great that you did that. A level two CMMC is no joke. So many other, let's say, gates that you have to kind of pass through to work now with the Department of War. The FCC requirements. Kind of that foreign drone and component ban that people are grappling with. Certainly, a
yeah.
lot of foreign companies looking to do some work in the U.S. that that think, oh, we'll just set up shop on US soil and it's going to be good, it's going to work out for us. There's just a lot more to it. And the fact that you bring over 20 years of expertise working with the DoD and navigating those processes, I think is a huge leg up compared to some of these other folks, like you said, just rolling out their tech in hopes that like, hey, we're gonna win the big one here. So really, really cool what you're doing over there. Let's talk a little bit about the AI stack because you talked about like the navigation system, you talked about the hardware, the Haley drone itself, but I think you have a name for your AI or the low swap autonomy stack called Voyager.
Yeah,
Is
that's
this
right. Yeah.
something that you're going to commercialize and incorporate into other people's platforms, or is this something you're going to kind of keep to yourself with Haley and some other platforms you guys might develop in the future?
Yeah, so that's right. We have our own kind of stack. It's hardware and software. Um, current version carries an NVIDIA GPU on it and some other compute. It can be kind of just a like it could be like say an alt PNT or an obstacle detection or some other perception solution that we can run, or these AI-based communication systems that we've talked about, or it has the ability to take full control of the aircraft. Like literally, we yank your autopilot out and we have control over the control surfaces of the aircraft. Or, if you have propellers, we can control the propellers type of thing. Um, we are working with a few key partners where we think we can have the most impact on that. We haven't announced those yet, but they're coming out later in the year. It's all things that you will immediately recognize, and we're working pretty hard to showcase capability. I'll be honest, like I think if you like the problem for, I don't know, you're going like 10,000 feet and you're mostly going straight, like that kind of autonomy problem is kind of largely solved. And
Yeah.
and we can pretty easily do that. You can take our system and just do it. I think where we're more valuable is, you're working in denied or contested environments. So you're in a denied environment where we don't need GPS, we don't need comms, we can operate uh, fully autonomously. When I say it, I mean it, like fully autonomously in wherever we can do these kinds of things. We can do, people talk about swarming about like more as, oh, I go here, you go there type of a task alignment, which is great. We don't do that. People can put their code on our system and we can run it. But we do actual formation flight. Like, we fly aircraft 10 feet away from each other, break away from formation, go do something, come back or not come back if it's a one-way mission. And we can bring these things to all platforms like Group 1 through Group 5. And so we're working pretty hard to do all of that. It's a multi-year thing, but we picked out, I think, what I would think are some of the right partners. We're trying to onboard a few others to kind of really showcase this agile autonomy technology on the platforms where it's going to be most valuable. And I said denied is one thing. The contested is more like, what I believe is, when you're up in the sky, especially if you're big and you're emitting electromagnetic signals, like it makes it a pretty easy target. I mean, we work a lot on like interception. It's just a lot easier to intercept.
Right.
But if you're hugging the ground literally becomes your shield. And so
Mm,
now it's a lot harder. It's practically impossible for traditional air defense systems that use a ground-based radar. I mean, you're literally flying under the radar. So the kinds of things that we are doing are more like you fly 50 feet off the ground and maybe 25 feet off the ground, and you see a set of like obstacles like trees or something, you gain some altitude, you come back down. And those are the things that we're working on that I think is where we can make the impact. And I know that some of the aircraft that our partners have, like, will never be, I mean, we may never build those. I mean, right now we clearly cannot.
mhm.
And so we're partnering with others and sort of getting into their aircraft, um, and partnering with some of them to kind of access a bigger market. For our own, Haley is like a group one version of that. It's just extremely agile, extremely fast. And frankly, there's no vehicle on the market that otherwise is group one and could use the full envelope of our autonomy. Like you either get things that are very fast or you get
Mhm.
things that are agile. Like you get a quadcopter, very agile. I mean, it can turn around pretty quickly, but then it does 80 miles an hour, like if you're lucky. Or you get a fixed wing aircraft, 200 miles an hour, no problem. But you see a set of obstacles and you try to pull up and you can't. And
Yeah.
so here we can kind of like bring those together. That's why we want to build it. It really allows us to demonstrate and actually bring to market the full envelope of Voyager, basically.
Yeah, so the best of both worlds in your words, and it's almost like the company in a way has been flying under the radar. Now, you said you had these demos, back
Coming
in the
out very
April,
soon.
May timeframe.
Yeah, that's right.
And then was Soft Week your big kind of like showcase, your first time you actually kind of
Um,
went to a show with it?
yeah, I would say that, we've been there's some things that we've been building like for a year, and we took it to T-Rex. And because to sell to the government, you need to be evaluated and so on.
Yep.
And then we took it to Soft Week and, kind of a quick showcase of what's happening and, where we're building. And
Yep.
now, in the months ahead, we'll start to showcase like some of the technical capability. It's going to start sort of like coming out. And obviously, we are working with our partners and the government to kind of do the right type of timing to be able to like a little bit kind of show people what agile autonomy could look like. So that's
Yeah.
sort of how we think of ourselves. I think this agile autonomy is like a new category. I don't see other people kind of doing it right now. I think with our core competencies and our approach, that's I think how it should be done. But I'm sure there's a lot to learn. Like we'll also put some things out there. There's some, feedback from customers, some feedback from partners, some feedback from the community, and we'll improve is the
Yeah.
thinking.
Well, constant iteration, I'm sure, because you
Yeah.
learn as you go. So that really kind of is a great segue to my next question which is, as you look ahead, what do you see, maybe for the next 6 months in terms of some developments or maybe places you guys intend to go or showcase or even demonstrate Haley or the Voyager autonomy stack?
Yeah, for the next 6 months, we're really working with the government to kind of demonstrate to the government some capabilities of Haley. And we also, as I said, like kind of a set of partners that I think is just an amazing partnership. And I think some of them are a lot sooner that they will be announced, and some of them are a little bit further, but kind of within the next, 6 months or so, maybe a little bit later that they're going to come out. I'd say we're pretty heads down, just focused on that right now, and just making sure that Haley and Voyager, which are already at the hands of the customer, but can get at the hands of the customer with the kind of capabilities that are differentiating, that would genuinely make a difference, and at the same time, that can get at the hands of the customer at scale.
Yeah.
And so, not like, we can kind of ship you one or 10 or something like that, but more like, how do we get thousands, 10,000 of these things? And
Well,
over the next 6 months to a year, we'll just like, these are all in the pipeline right now, and they'll get announced.
the scaling issue is a big one, right? Because you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there are companies out there that maybe have drones that can do stuff, but then the government says, all right, now I need like 20,000 of those, and they're like, yeah, okay. The fact that
Yeah,
you guys are
that's
building your
exactly
own
right.
chips, like, right? So now we're kind of in the supply chain issue, right? Like
Yeah,
you guys are building your own chips. I heard you say much earlier in this conversation, 3D printing capabilities
yeah.
to crank these things out, at scale. So that sounds like kind of, besides demonstrating learning from the customer, kind of what other features you can incorporate, maybe the next phase, which is now we're ready to build. So what point do you think, is your kind of commercialization timeline if you have kind of a dot on your whiteboard, like this is about the time where we're going to be cranking these things out, selling at scale?
It's like about now.
Now, okay,
Yeah,
he's
it's about
ready.
now. So we're a little under the radar, but we're doing a few things with the Department of War, with some of our partners, like we have cool stuff at the hands of people. I think a part of it is we want to work with our partners, kind of do the announcements in the right way.
Yep, yep.
What I think is, I think it's actually a good thing to, tell the public what you're doing. But at the same time, there's a lot of partners that are involved, and we're doing a little bit things that are like a little bit different. So it sometimes people need some time to kind of get it, understand it, let it sink in, and so that's why kind of you're not seeing things from us as much. You will soon. But what I would say is that like the time is about now. My thinking on manufacturing is twofold. So number one is like more like electronics, like computer manufacturing, and we can like do another hour-long discussion around that. The best supply chain that I like the most is the following one. You take sand from California, pour it into a fab in Arizona, and you get your compute.
There you go.
Um, that's what I want to do at some point in time. We may not be able to do that right away, but eventually that's what I'm hoping we can tell the Department of War, like, this is our supply chain.
Yep.
Um, the second one is that I think around manufacturing, we want to build high performance vehicles, like extremely high performance. And I think in group one, at the very least, with definitely with electric propulsion, but maybe even with like higher grade, like we think a lot about like jet propulsion, for example, even rocket propulsion. Um, but with kind of like some of the simpler group one electric propulsion vehicles, you want to be able to make a very high performance vehicle at the same process you make the keyboard in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the process you want to use. If somebody can make a keyboard, they can make your aircraft. And it will
Wow.
fly 200 miles an hour and it'll pull 10 Gs. That's the kind of mentality that we're approaching this with.
Mm-hmm.
We'll kind of showcase like this can be done. Of course, you can do this on your own too. Like you can build a factory if you really want, or you can build. You can contract manufacture some of these things. Those are also options.
Yeah.
I think for the US, we're kind of in a position where we can afford like a big factory. That's the kind of thing that, we would also want to do at some point, where it's like a lights out factory that, you can just really assemble these things pretty rapidly.
Yep.
I think it's possible. Internationally, some of our international partners, they don't have the same protection of force or protection of geography that we have.
Mm,
And so for them, it's a little bit more complicated. Like they might be thinking about, give me several factories that I can put in every basement. So, you have 10,000 square foot and plastic pellets go in, metal goes in, maybe magnets go in. For a jet propulsion, you may not even need that.
mhm.
And, comes out an aircraft that is high performance. I
Yeah.
think those are the things that we think hard about when it comes to manufacturing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, sounds like a lot of people talk about one-stop shop, but really you guys are because you're doing the software, you're doing the hardware, and beyond that, you're doing, kind of the manufacturing, the thinking about the manufacturing. What does that look like to do this all at scale? You've got the talent to amass there to do it. So that's quite amazing. Wow. Well, our time has flown, no pun intended. I knew it would. We got like about 3 minutes left. So I want to make sure before we close out the show, Sertosh, that, if there's anything we missed, please, this is your time to talk about it. And then lastly, of course, tell people how they can learn more about Tycho.AI or how they can reach you if they're looking to buy or to partner.
Yeah, I mean, our website is the best place to go probably right now, Tycho.AI. Send us a mail, info@tycho.ai. My first name at Tycho.ai. I look at all those emails. We're excited to partner with people if it does make sense. We're definitely excited to showcase what we got to the customers, government customers. I'm also really excited to attract talent into our company. We are a very, very talented team. I mean, a lot of people, of course, like we're kind of adjacent to MIT. We're basically on MIT's campus at this point. And we have a lot of people who, have been working on these things for a long time and, top of the field and want to come work with us. We would really appreciate it. Just reach out. We have a ton of positions open and looking forward to getting people who are excited about the mission, excited about building something interesting and valuable. We're here.
I love it. So a call to action, everybody. You heard it here. I do get a lot of people that DM me like, hey, I'm looking for my next role or, so there you go. Reach out to Tycho AI. They've got some positions opened and a lot of exciting things on the horizon. So looking forward to learning more, watching you guys grow, seeing what happens next, not only this year, but of course into 2027. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your vision, and really your technology with us today. So, really, really cool. As we close out, any final comments? And again, I know that you mentioned your website. Anything else before we head out?
No, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you. It's very exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So that's all she wrote, everybody. This is the close of Tech Leaders Month, and now you know why Tycho AI is closing out this month. When you think about tech leaders, clearly the name Tycho AI should come to mind. If it didn't before, it should now. So make sure you reach out to Sertosh and his team if you want to learn more. And once again, thanks to True Weather Solutions. Next month, we hit security. Echodyne will be our sponsor, so check that out next week. They are a radar company, by the way, Sertosh. You probably know that, but you're flying under their radars apparently. So, all right, very cool. All right, that's all she wrote, everybody. We are out here.
Thank you.